a soaked teenager huddled in the rain, clutching twin babies, with a promise she'd risk everything to keep. Alone, hunted, and desperate, her secret could destroy lives. What terrifying truth was hidden beneath the storm? And why was Keanu Reeves moved to tears by what he discovered that night? Watch to uncover the heartbreaking mystery. Before we continue this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story you won't want to miss. The rain hammered relentlessly against the windshield of Keanu Reeves' car as he drove through the slick streets of downtown Los Angeles. The city lights blurred behind sheets of water, casting distorted reflections on the wet pavement. It was late, well past the time most people had returned home, but after a long day of filming, Keanu was still on the road. His mind was tired, weighed down by the demands of his craft, but also restless. Unable to simply turn away and ignore what he saw next. Through the cascade of rain, something caught his eye beneath a broken bus shelter. At first, he thought it was just a pile of soaked clothes discarded carelessly on the curb. But then the figure moved slightly, drawing his attention in fully. It was a small person, hunched over and shivering, struggling to protect something precious against the storm. Keanu slowed his car, blinking through the water drops on the glass. The figure was a child, or barely a teenager, wrapped in tattered layers that did little to keep out the chill. What shocked him most was what she was holding. Two tiny infants, swaddled tightly in blankets, but clearly exposed to the cold, unforgiving night. The girl's soaked hair clung to her pale face, and her eyes, wide and tired, flicked toward the street as cars passed by. She was humming softly, a gentle, trembling lullaby that rose above the sound of rain and distant thunder. Her small hands rocked the babies carefully, cradling them with a tenderness that contrasted sharply with the harshness of their surroundings. Keanu's heart tightened. Despite the late hour, despite the pounding storm, despite the risks of stopping, something deep inside him urged him to act. He felt a surge of protectiveness, an overwhelming need to help this fragile family in front of him. He pulled his car to the curb and switched off the engine, the silence inside the vehicle almost deafening compared to the chaos outside. For a moment, he just watched. The girl was not just cold and scared. There was a quiet strength about her, a determination that spoke of battles fought and promises made. He reached for his umbrella from the back seat and stepped out into the rain, the cold biting through his soaked clothes. With slow, deliberate steps, he approached the bus shelter, careful not to startle her. As he got closer, the girl looked up. Their eyes met, hers wary, his filled with compassion. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice barely louder than the rain. She shook her head, clutching the twins tighter. "Please," she whispered, "don't take them from me." Keanu felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say so much. Offer help, reassurance, a way out of this nightmare. But all he could do was stand there, letting the rain wash over them both, knowing that this moment was just the beginning of a story far more complicated and heart-wrenching than he could have imagined. Keanu lowered the umbrella slightly to shield the girl and the babies from the worst of the rain. His eyes scanned their soaked clothes, the threadbare blanket wrapped unevenly around the twins, and the small, tired faces that peeked out. His mind raced, trying to piece together how someone so young could be out here in this storm, carrying such a heavy burden. "Where are your parents?" he asked gently, searching her face for any hint of an answer. The girl's lips trembled. "They're gone," she whispered, barely audible. Her voice cracked under the weight of loss and exhaustion. She rocked the babies again, humming the same soft tune, as if trying to shield them with her own strength. Keanu's heart clenched. The innocence of these infants was stark against the brutal reality surrounding them. Two newborn twins, barely weeks old, vulnerable to the cold, rain, and the dangers of the night. And here was this girl, barely older than a child herself, bearing the impossible responsibility of protecting them. He shifted the umbrella to cover the babies, careful not to disturb their fragile rest. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice steady but kind. The girl looked at him, eyes flickering between suspicion and hope. "I promised," she said quietly. "I promised their mama I'd keep them safe, no matter what." Keanu felt a deep respect welling up inside him. This wasn't just a teenager struggling to survive. This was a protector, a guardian who had taken on a vow beyond her years. He wanted to understand more. What had led her here? What dangers they were facing? But first, they needed shelter, warmth, safety. "It's too dangerous to stay out here tonight," Keanu said. "Come with me. We'll find a warm place, and I'll help however I can." For a moment, the girl hesitated. The rain masked the turmoil flickering across her face. But then, with a quiet nod, she gathered the babies closer and they stepped out from beneath the broken shelter. As they walked toward Keanu's car, his umbrella shielding them from the storm, he couldn't shake the feeling that this chance encounter was the start of something far bigger than either of them could have anticipated. The night was dark, the rain relentless, and the stakes higher than he could yet comprehend. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of the city, others were watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Keanu opened the car door and helped the girl carefully settle the twins into their car seats. The babies stirred softly, their fragile cries barely audible over the rain. He glanced at the girl's soaked clothes and worn shoes, her face pale but determined. There was a strength in her eyes that belied her youth, something fierce, protective, and heartbreaking all at once. "You can sit here," Keanu said gently, patting the passenger seat. "We'll figure out what to do next." As the rain continued to pour, Keanu started the engine, the heater humming to life and sending warmth through the car's interior. The girl, who finally introduced herself as Lily, wrapped her arms around the babies, rocking them slowly. "I don't know how long we can keep doing this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I have to." Melody, my sister, she asked me to promise I'd never let them be separated. That's why I'm here. Keanu's heart ached as he listened. Lily's sister Melody had left her twins in the care of someone so young, someone so vulnerable herself. He thought of the babies' tiny hands clutching at the threadbare blanket, their innocent faces demanding safety, love, and hope. "Where can we go?" Keanu asked softly. Lily hesitated, her eyes darting to the dark streets beyond the car window. "We move around. Sometimes we find shelter in abandoned buildings or quiet parks, but it's never safe. There are people looking for them, people who want to take the babies away." Keanu's protective instinct surged. He was used to facing challenges on film, but this was real. This was urgent. These babies and their guardian needed more than shelter. They needed protection. He gripped the steering wheel tightly and looked at Lily. "You're not alone anymore. I'm going to help you. We'll find a safe place, and I promise, no one's going to take them from you." The storm outside raged on, thunder rolling through the city like a warning. But inside the car, a fragile sense of hope flickered. A promise born in the pouring rain, one that would change all their lives forever. And as Keanu drove into the night, he knew this was only the beginning of a journey none of them could have predicted. Keanu gently closed the car door behind them and turned to Mia with a soft smile. "I'm Keanu," he said quietly, his voice calm but warm. "I'm here to help." Mia looked up at him, eyes wary yet trusting in a way that surprised him. She was small, fragile almost, but there was a steel beneath her calm. "I'm Mia," she whispered, barely louder than the patter of rain on the roof. "I'm 14. 14 years old." The weight of that number sank deep in Keanu's chest. How was this child bearing such responsibility? He glanced down at the twins, nestled safely in their car seats, their tiny fingers curling and uncurling with gentle breaths. Their Lily and Max, Mia said, her voice breaking the silence. My sister named them. They're just a few weeks old. Keanu's heart tightened. Newborn twins, so small and vulnerable, yet held by a girl still a child herself. He could see the exhaustion in Mia's eyes, but more than that, the fierce love and determination that refused to be broken. How long have you been caring for them? Keanu asked gently. Almost 3 months, Mia answered without hesitation. Since my sister got sick, she passed away. I promised her I'd keep them safe. The rawness in her voice struck Keanu. It wasn't just a promise, it was a sacred vow, a lifeline for these tiny lives. The rain outside seemed to fade away as he listened, hanging on every word. I've been running, Mia continued. We don't stay in one place. Sometimes I find help, sometimes I don't, but I can't let them go to anyone else. They'd split the twins apart. That's what my sister feared most. Keanu's mind raced. The thought of these babies being separated by a broken system, ripped from their only guardian, was unbearable. Mia's quiet strength in the face of so much pain and uncertainty was nothing short of remarkable. You're incredibly brave, Mia, Keanu said, his voice steady with admiration. I want to help you and Lily and Max. No one should have to do this alone. Mia's gaze softened, a flicker of hope shining through the storm in her eyes. Thank you, she said, clutching the babies a little tighter. In that moment, amidst the pounding rain and the distant city lights, a fragile but unbreakable bond formed, one that would carry them through the dangerous journey ahead. Keanu watched Mia closely as she gently adjusted Lily's tiny blanket, her fingers trembling slightly but her touch tender and sure. Despite her youth, Mia moved with the grace of someone who had learned how to care for newborns under impossible circumstances. How do you manage to keep them fed? Keanu asked softly, concerned. Formula, diapers, everything? Mia gave a small, sad smile. It's not easy. Sometimes people throw away unopened baby supplies. I ask for help when I can, at grocery stores, churches, even from strangers. Most people just look away, but some are kind. That's how we get by. Keanu's heart ached. He'd spent his life in comfort, surrounded by people who cared for him, and here was this brave girl, scraping by day to day, protecting 2 helpless lives with no safety net. Where do you sleep? He asked gently, afraid of the answer. Wherever it's safe, Mia replied quietly. Abandoned buildings under bridges when it rains. I try to keep them dry and warm, but sometimes it's hard. The city was indifferent to their plight. Keanu could feel the weight of it pressing down. How easily someone so young and so vulnerable could be swallowed by the streets. Do you have anyone who helps? Family, friends? He inquired. Mia shook her head slowly. No. My sister was my family. Our foster family wasn't kind. When I aged out, I left. I don't trust anyone anymore. There was a pain behind her words that Keanu could not ignore, a wound deeper than any he had seen before. Your sister sounds like she was special, Keanu said softly, trying to offer comfort. She was, Mia whispered. She was the only one who ever believed in me. Before she got sick, she told me to promise her I'd keep Lily and Max safe, no matter what. Keanu looked at the babies, their peaceful faces a sharp contrast to the storm raging outside. He thought of the promise Mia carried. A promise born from love, loss, and fierce determination. I want to help you keep that promise, Keanu said firmly. We'll figure this out together. Mia looked up at him, her eyes searching, weighing the sincerity in his voice. Slowly, she nodded. In that fragile moment, hope took root. A hope that no matter how dark the night, there might be light ahead. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a small pack of tissues, handing them to Mia. She accepted them gratefully, dabbing at her damp cheeks. The rain outside had softened but still fell steadily, a persistent reminder of their precarious situation. "What happened to your sister?" Keanu asked gently, knowing some wounds ran too deep for quick answers. Mia's gaze drifted toward the street, distant and haunted. "She got sick, pneumonia. We didn't have money for a doctor. She kept saying she'd get better, but she didn't. I couldn't save her." Keanu's chest tightened. The injustice of it stung. How could someone so young lose a family member to something that might have been preventable? "She made me promise," Mia continued, her voice breaking, "to keep the twins together. She said they were each other's whole world. If they were split up, it'd be like tearing them apart." Keanu nodded, understanding. The weight of that promise pressed down like a mountain. "How long have you been on your own?" he asked. "Almost 4 months," Mia whispered. "Since she passed, I've been running, hiding, doing everything to keep Lily and Max safe, but it's getting harder every day." Keanu looked at the twins again, Max with his tiny fists curled, and Lily, eyes fluttering in sleep, trusting Mia's every move. Their innocence was a stark contrast to the harshness of their reality. "Have you thought about what happens next?" Keanu asked carefully. "About where you'll go, what you'll do?" Mia shook her head. "I don't know. I just take it one day at a time. I'm scared, but I can't give up, not for them." Keanu's admiration for her courage deepened. This girl, barely a teenager, was carrying a burden most adults would crumble under. "I promise you," he said quietly, "we'll find a way. No one should have to face this alone." The storm continued outside, but inside that small, broken bus shelter, a fragile alliance was forming. A spark of hope against the relentless rain. Keanu knew this was just the beginning of a journey that would change all their lives forever. The rain had finally eased into a gentle drizzle, but the weight of the night seemed heavier than ever. Mia shifted Lily and Max carefully in her arms, her gaze fixed somewhere beyond the flickering streetlights. Keanu sat beside her on the damp bench, waiting patiently for her to find the words she'd clearly been holding back. After a long silence, Mia's voice came soft but steady. "Before my sister passed, she made me promise something I never thought I'd have to keep." Keanu leaned in closer, his expression open and encouraging. "What was the promise?" Mia swallowed hard, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "She told me to protect Lily and Max, no matter what, to never let them be separated. She said they were each other's world. If anyone tried to split them, it'd be like ripping their souls apart." Keanu felt the air thicken with the weight of those words. This wasn't just about 2 babies, it was a sacred vow, made in a moment of desperation and love. "My sister got sick," Mia continued, voice breaking. "It was pneumonia. We didn't have money for doctors. She kept telling me she'd get better, but she didn't." She closed her eyes briefly, as if willing the memory away. "She made me swear to keep the babies safe, to keep them together, even if it meant running forever." Keanu's heart ached. He thought of the helplessness of watching someone you love slip away, and the fierce responsibility left behind. "How long ago did she pass?" 4 months, but it feels like a lifetime." Mia's fingers tightened around Lily's tiny hand. "I'm scared. Social services? They might take the babies. They don't always keep siblings together, especially twins. I can't let that happen." Keanu nodded slowly, understanding the impossible choice she faced. Seeking help could mean losing the ones she loved most. "Have you had to move much?" he asked gently. "Everywhere," Mia whispered. "Abandoned buildings, parks, sometimes under bridges. When it rains, like tonight, I try to find places with some cover, but it's never enough." Lily stirred, and Mia immediately began humming a soft lullaby. Max opened his eyes briefly and blinked up at them both, fragile and trusting. "You've been carrying so much," Keanu said quietly. "No child should have to bear such a burden." Mia looked up, eyes fierce now. "I have to, For them. I don't have a choice." Keanu reached out, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. "You're incredibly strong. But you don't have to do this alone." For the first time, Mia allowed a small, hesitant smile. The storm outside still raged softly, but between them, a fragile hope began to take root. Mia's gaze dropped to the twins nestled in her arms. "My sister, Melody, she was the best person I ever knew. She was 17 when she had Lily and Max. She was like a mother to me, the only family I ever really had." Keanu listened carefully, picturing the bond between two sisters, one sacrificing everything for the other. "What was she like?" Mia's eyes softened. "Kind, brave, and full of love. She protected me when no one else would. When she got sick, she didn't want to be a burden. She told me she had to get better for the babies, but the sickness took her too fast." A shiver passed through Mia, not from the cold, but from the weight of grief. "Before she died, she made me promise I'd never let anyone take Lily and Max away from each other. That promise means everything to me. It's why I've been hiding, why I won't go to anyone for help." Keanu's heart ached for her, but he admired her fierce determination. "That's an incredible promise. And an incredible responsibility." Mia looked up, a fierce light in her eyes. "They're all I have left. I can't let them down." She explained how Melody had been in the foster system, faced cruelty and rejection, and how Mia had grown up in the same system. "I aged out when I was 13. No one wanted me. No one cared. Melody was different. She found out she was pregnant, and for a while, things were hopeful. But when Melody got sick," Mia's voice cracked, "everything changed. I had to be strong for her and for the babies." Keanu watched as she gently rocked Lily, humming that same lullaby, steady and sure despite her own trembling. "You've been alone for a long time," Keanu said softly. "Yes," Mia whispered. "But the promise keeps me going. Every time I feel like giving up, I think about what Melody asked me to do. Protect them, keep them safe." Keanu's mind raced. This wasn't just a chance encounter. It was a story of courage, sacrifice, and raw survival. "Mia, I want to help you. You don't have to face this alone." Mia looked at him skeptically. "Why would you?" "Because no one should have to carry this weight alone," Keanu said firmly. "Especially not you, or these two." The rain had slowed to a soft mist, and the city lights cast a warm glow on the fragile family. For a moment, the storm outside faded, replaced by a quiet hope that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. Mia's voice trembled as she continued. "Melody was the best person I ever knew. She was like a sister to me, protective, kind, and brave. But when she got sick, everything changed. She was fighting pneumonia, but we didn't have money for a doctor. She kept telling me she'd get better, but she didn't." Keanu listened closely, his heart aching for this young girl, forced into a role no child should have to bear. "She made me promise," Mia said, her eyes filling with tears that mingled with the rain still dripping from her hair, "that I'd keep Lily and Max together, that I'd never let anyone split them up. She said they're each other's whole world." Keanu's throat tightened. The gravity of Mia's words settled in the quiet space between them. Here was a girl, barely 14, carrying the weight of two innocent lives on her shoulders, bound by a promise made in the shadow of loss. "I can't go to the authorities," Mia whispered, looking down at the babies cradled against her chest. "If I do, they'll take them away. They don't like to place twins together, especially not with someone like me." Keanu's mind raced. He thought about the social systems that were supposed to protect children, but often ended up tearing families apart. The rigid rules, the bureaucracy that failed to see the heart behind the paper forms. Mia's resolve was unyielding. "I don't care what they say. I'll do whatever it takes to keep my promise." Her courage was raw and real. "I've been on the run for months, hiding wherever I could. Empty buildings, parks, under bridges when it rained. The babies need constant care, feeding every 2 hours, changing diapers, keeping them warm. I've learned fast. They have colic, especially Lily. She cries a lot in the evenings. Keanu was struck by the maturity in her voice, the way she listed medical details as if reciting a textbook, but with the tenderness of a mother's love. "Where do you sleep?" he asked gently. "Anywhere safe," Mia said, swallowing hard. "Sometimes with people who help, sometimes alone. It's not easy." Keanu felt a swell of admiration, mixed with helplessness. How had this brave girl been left to fend for herself and these babies in a city that often turned a blind eye? "There's more," Mia added, her voice barely above a whisper. "Melody warned me to trust no one, not even good people. She said bad things happen when you least expect them. We're not safe. There are people looking for us." Keanu's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Mia shook her head. She never said. "But whoever they are, they're dangerous. They want the babies." The storm outside had lessened, but the storm around them was only beginning. Keanu reached out, taking Mia's hand in his. "You're not alone now. I'll help you protect Lily and Max. We'll find a way." Mia looked up, searching his face for any sign of doubt. Seeing none, she gave a small, hopeful smile. "Thank you. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm ready to fight." The rain had stopped, but the night was far from quiet. Keanu felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was no ordinary rescue. It was a battle for survival, love, and keeping a promise made in the darkest hour. As they stood beneath the flickering streetlight, an unspoken bond formed. Two strangers, united by fate, ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead for the sake of two tiny lives, and the promise that bound them. The storm outside had grown fiercer, rain hammering the pavement and wind howling through the streets like a warning. Keanu and Mia huddled under the scant shelter of the bus stop, the flickering streetlight casting long shadows over their faces. The twins, Lily and Max, lay quietly in Mia's arms, swaddled against the cold. Keanu's mind was racing, trying to piece together the fragments of Mia's story. This was no ordinary runaway or homeless teenager's plight. Something far darker was lurking beneath the surface, a shadowy threat that had forced this young girl into hiding with two helpless infants. Mia's eyes darted nervously down the street, her body tense with unease. "It's not just about me or the babies," she whispered. "There are people out there, dangerous people, who want to take them." Keanu's brow furrowed. "Who? Why?" She hesitated, swallowing hard. "I don't know all the details. Melody, my sister, never told me everything. But she was scared. She warned me these people have power, money, influence, and they won't stop until they get what they want." The storm's fury seemed to echo the tension building between them. Lightning flashed overhead, briefly illuminating the worry etched on Mia's young face. Keanu felt a protective fire ignite deep within him. This wasn't just about rescuing children from neglect or poverty. It was about protecting them from forces willing to cross any line. Mia rocked Lily gently, humming a lullaby despite the roaring wind. "Melody said these people are connected to powerful families, people who don't care about anyone but themselves. They see the babies as leverage, something to use." Keanu swallowed hard, his mind racing with the implications. This was no simple case of child neglect or teenage hardship. This was a dangerous game of power, and Mia was caught in the middle, carrying the weight of her sister's last wish. "Have they tried to find you?" Keanu asked quietly. Mia's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, several times. I hear footsteps when I'm trying to sleep. Sometimes I see strange cars parked nearby. I don't know who they are, but they don't just want to scare me. They want those babies." The twins stirred, Max letting out a soft whimper. Mia tightened her hold, her gaze fierce despite her exhaustion. "I won't let them take Lily and Max. I promised." Keanu reached out, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore. I'll help you keep that promise." The rain poured harder, drumming a relentless rhythm on the cracked pavement, a relentless reminder of the storm raging both outside and within. The rain intensified, soaking them through despite the thin cover of the bus shelter. Keanu glanced up at the dark, swirling clouds and then back at Mia, who looked smaller than her years, yet carried an unyielding strength in her eyes. "This is bigger than any of us," Mia said quietly, her voice trembling but resolute. "Melody warned me. She said the moment people found out about the babies, things would get dangerous." Keanu's heart tightened. The thought of a child this young shouldering such a burden was almost unbearable. Yet here she was, standing firm in the storm, protecting two lives more fragile than the flickering streetlight above them. "I'm guessing Melody didn't just disappear without reason," Keanu said softly. "No, she got sick," Mia replied. "She was trying to keep the babies safe until I was ready, but it was never enough time, and then, just before she died, she made me swear I'd keep them together, no matter what." Keanu felt a lump in his throat. "That's a heavy promise." Mia nodded, eyes fixed on the babies as they slept peacefully in her arms. "It's more than a promise, it's my whole life now." The wind howled louder, rattling the broken glass of the bus shelter. Shadows seemed to creep closer, as if the storm outside was trying to mirror the danger that loomed over them. Keanu looked around, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching. "Who do you think is after the babies?" he asked, voice low. Mia's face darkened. "People who don't want Melody's story told. People who want control. I think it's tied to her past. Things she tried to protect the babies from. But now that she's gone, they want to take the twins and use them to get to her family." Keanu's protective instincts sharpened. This wasn't just a runaway child or a forgotten family. This was a battle for innocence, a fight against powerful forces cloaked in shadows. "They're using babies as pawns," he said quietly, anger rising. "That's cruel." Mia's gaze locked on his. "And that's why I can't let them win. I don't care what it takes." Keanu squeezed her shoulder. "You won't have to do this alone." Lightning split the sky, illuminating the rain-soaked streets and the determined faces beneath the bus shelter. The storm was far from over, but so was their fight. The storm's fury seemed to echo the rising tension in Mia's story. Keanu's eyes scanned the empty street beyond the shelter, where shadows twisted in the rain, concealing dangers unseen. The vulnerability of this moment contrasted starkly with the strength in Mia's voice, a strength born from desperation and fierce love. "I don't know exactly who's after us," Mia admitted, her fingers tightening around the soft blanket wrapped around Lily and Max. "But Melody said they have people everywhere. They watch, they wait." Keanu swallowed hard. The idea that innocent babies were targets of some unseen conspiracy felt almost unreal, yet the fear in Mia's eyes made it undeniable. "What kind of people?" Keanu asked, trying to understand the magnitude of the threat. "Rich, powerful, people who don't care about children or families," Mia said. "Melody kept everything secret. She said if they knew about the twins, they'd be taken away, used as leverage." Keanu's mind raced. He pictured the babies, so small and fragile, caught in a cruel game of power and greed. His protective instincts flared. This was no longer just about helping a homeless teenager, this was about saving lives. "You've done something incredible, Mia," Keanu said gently. "Protecting these babies like this? It's beyond brave." Mia glanced up, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "I don't feel brave, just scared, all the time." Keanu nodded, understanding the weight of fear that came with such responsibility. "You're not alone anymore. I'm here to help. We'll figure this out. Together." The rain softened for a moment, as if nature itself held its breath. Mia let out a shaky breath, a flicker of hope passing through her eyes. "But we have to be careful," she warned. "If they find us, it could mean the end of everything." Keanu's jaw tightened. "Then we won't let them. Not if I have anything to say about it." Oh, as the storm's rage continued outside, inside that small bus shelter, a quiet alliance was formed. Two strangers, united by compassion and determination, ready to face the darkness for the sake of two innocent lives. The night was far from over, but for the first time, Mia allowed herself to believe they might survive it together. Keanu glanced down at Mia, her figure small and fragile beneath the relentless rain. Her soaked clothes clung to her thin frame, but her grip on the worn backpack was steadfast. Inside, the few precious belongings she carried, the babies, Lily and Max, nestled close against her chest, their tiny faces peaceful despite the storm. "I know a place nearby," Keanu said quietly, his voice steady in the quiet hum of the rain. "It's a diner, open all night. Warm, safe." Mia hesitated, eyes darting to the shadowed streets around them, then back to the twins. "I don't know if I can trust anyone," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Keanu's gaze softened. "I'm not here to hurt you, just to help." With a careful hand, he lifted Lily gently, cradling her close. Mia mirrored his motion, adjusting Max so he could breathe easier beneath the thin blanket. Together, they stepped out from the shelter, the cold rain soaking through their clothes instantly. The streets were slick with rainwater, the city lights casting blurred reflections on the wet pavement. Cars passed by in a blur, their headlights cutting through the dark as if searching for something. Or someone. Keanu kept a protective arm around Mia, guiding her carefully. "We'll be okay, just a few blocks." Mia's footsteps were quick, matching his pace, the baby's quiet breaths grounding her despite the fear that lingered beneath her skin. "Thank you," she whispered, voice tight. "No thanks needed," Keanu replied. "You're doing something incredible." As they neared the diner, the warm glow of neon signs broke through the rain's gloom. The smell of coffee and frying bacon drifted to meet them, a small comfort against the night's chill. Keanu pushed open the door and a bell jingled softly. Inside, the diner was a haven of light and warmth, the hum of quiet conversation filling the space. A few patrons glanced up, eyes briefly lingering on the soaked young girl and the man carrying a baby. Keanu led Mia to a corner booth, where they could settle in away from the door's draft. Mia eased onto the seat, still clutching her backpack as if it were a lifeline. The waitress approached, a kindly woman with gentle eyes and a warm smile. "Well, what do we have here? Looks like you've had quite the night." Keanu smiled softly. "A long one. We're just looking for some warmth and food." The woman nodded, pulling out menus. "You've come to the right place. Don't worry about the babies making noise. I've got 6 grandkids of my own." Mia's tense shoulders relaxed slightly as she looked down at Lily and Max, their tiny hands curled against her chest. For a brief moment, the storm outside felt distant, held at bay by the simple sanctuary of this diner. But Keanu's eyes never stopped scanning the windows, aware that safety was fragile and fleeting. Mia's hands trembled slightly as she accepted the menu, still holding tightly to her backpack. Keanu could see the exhaustion beneath her guarded expression, the weight of months spent on the run, caring for 2 fragile lives with no one else to turn to. The waitress returned quickly with a pot of coffee and gentle words. "Take your time, you both look like you could use a break." Keanu nodded gratefully. He glanced over at Mia, noticing how she instinctively shifted Max and Lily to keep them comfortable. Her movements were careful, practiced, a young mother forced to grow up too fast. "I'll get us some food," Keanu said quietly. "Something warm." Mia looked up, surprised by his kindness, but too weary to protest. "Thank you," she murmured. As Keanu placed the order, he couldn't help but admire the fierce determination in Mia's eyes. Despite her youth, despite the danger around them, she carried herself with a quiet strength that defied her fragile frame. The baby stirred, Lily's soft cries breaking the silence. Mia immediately rocked her gently, humming the same lullaby she'd sung beneath the storm. It was a haunting, tender melody that filled the small booth, weaving a fragile shield around them all. Keanu watched, feeling a surge of emotion. Here was a girl who had faced unimaginable loss, yet fought fiercely to protect two innocent lives. It was a kind of courage few could understand. Minutes passed as the food arrived: pancakes, eggs, toast, orange juice, and Mia ate with a hunger born of too many days without proper meals. Keanu kept glancing toward the rain-streaked windows, every shadow outside a reminder that danger was never far. "Where have you been staying?" Keanu asked gently, breaking the quiet. Mia swallowed, voice low. "Anywhere safe. Empty buildings, sometimes parks, when it rains, under bridges." Keanu's heart clenched. This child had no home, no refuge. "I'm sorry you've had to go through this," he said softly. Mia shook her head. "It's not just about me. It's about Lily and Max. I promised their mother I'd keep them safe, no matter what." Her words hung heavy in the air. Keanu reached out, his hand brushing gently against hers. "You're not alone anymore. I'll help you." Mia's eyes searched his, a flicker of hope breaking through the exhaustion. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the diner, a fragile warmth took hold. As they settled deeper into the booth, Keanu kept a quiet watch over Mia and the twins. The dim light of the diner cast soft shadows, contrasting the harshness outside. Despite the temporary safety, tension lingered in the air, an unspoken threat waiting beyond the warm walls. Mia's gaze drifted to the rain streaking down the window, her fingers gently stroking Lily's soft hair. "It's been so long since I felt safe," she whispered. "Every day, I wonder if someone will find us." Keanu nodded solemnly. "I can't imagine what you're going through, but you don't have to hide anymore." Her eyes met his, full of cautious trust. "They're looking for the babies, people who don't want them safe." "What kind of people?" Keanu asked, voice low but steady. Mia hesitated, her expression darkening. "Powerful, dangerous, people who believe the twins could be used to control someone very important." Keanu's heart pounded. The weight of her words sank deep. This was no ordinary struggle. It was a battle for lives, for innocence, caught in a dangerous game far beyond Mia's world. He shifted slightly, careful not to startle the sleeping Max, now nestled against her chest. "We'll figure this out, together." Mia's lips curved into a faint, grateful smile. "I never thought I'd meet someone who would believe me." Keanu smiled back, warmth in his eyes. "I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." The babies stirred again, tiny hands reaching out as if sensing the promise of protection. For the first time in months, Mia allowed herself a moment of hope. Outside, the rain slowed to a steady drizzle, but the storm of threats still loomed. Keanu's resolve hardened. Whatever came next, he would stand with Mia and the twins. Because some promises were worth risking everything for. The bell above the diner door jingled softly as Keanu and Mia stepped inside, bringing with them the damp chill of the rainy night. The warm glow of the interior wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. The scent of fresh coffee, sizzling bacon, and sweet syrup filled the air, a stark contrast to the cold storm outside. Rosa spotted them from behind the counter. Her eyes widened briefly when she saw the babies, then softened with genuine warmth. She wiped her hands on her apron and hurried over. "Well, aren't you two just the sweetest little angels?" Rosa said softly, her voice gentle and reassuring. She turned to Mia and Keanu. "You look like you could use a good meal." Mia smiled faintly, but looked exhausted. Keanu's gaze lingered on her, noticing the weariness beneath her strength. He felt a swell of gratitude toward Rosa's kindness. Rosa guided them to a quiet booth in the back corner, away from the hustle of the diner. "This spot is perfect for you all," she said, pulling out chairs for them. "Babies need quiet, safe places." As Mia settled in, carefully cradling Lily and Max, Rosa brought over menus and a steaming pot of coffee. "Whatever you need, just say the word." Keanu glanced around, noticing the mix of regular customers, tired truckers, night shift workers, and a few late-night wanderers. Despite their own troubles, they shared a subtle resilience. Rosa sat down beside Mia briefly, lowering her voice. "I've seen a lot in my years working here. Life isn't easy for many, but kindness can make all the difference." Mia looked up, meeting Rosa's eyes, sensing the sincerity there. "Thank you," she whispered. "It's been hard." Rosa nodded, her gaze steady. "I know, but you're not alone now. We've got you." Keanu ordered a warm meal for Mia and plenty of nourishment for the babies. As the food arrived, Mia fed Lily a bottle while Max rested against her shoulder, finally quiet. Rosa shared stories of people who'd come through the diner. Stories of struggle, hope, and sometimes small victories. Her words painted a picture of a community holding on despite everything. The atmosphere shifted subtly. Where there had been fear and uncertainty, now there was a flicker of hope. Rosa's kindness was a beacon, a small light in the darkness. Keanu felt his heart ease slightly. This diner, this moment, was more than just shelter from the storm. It was a reminder that even in the toughest times, compassion remained. He looked at Mia and the twins and vowed silently to be their protector, their ally in the battles to come. As Mia ate quietly, Rosa continued to share stories from her years working late nights at the diner. She spoke of people who had fallen on hard times but found strength in unexpected places. The older waitress's voice was steady and soothing, like a gentle tide washing away some of the weight Mia carried on her young shoulders. "You know," Rosa said softly, "I've seen folks come through storms much worse than this one. People broken by life, but still fighting to hold on." She reached over and placed a reassuring hand on Mia's arm. "You're stronger than you know, honey." Mia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I just want to keep Lily and Max safe," she whispered, her voice cracking with exhaustion. "I promised their mama I'd protect them, no matter what." Keanu watched her, admiration and sadness mingling in his heart. Here was a child forced into an impossible role. A guardian, a mother, a protector, long before she should have had to grow up. Rosa smiled warmly at Keanu, sensing the weight of his silent support. "You've got a good heart, Keanu. It's rare to see someone just stop and help like this." She glanced toward the sleeping babies. "They don't need to be out in the storm. You're doing the right thing." The diner's atmosphere was a cocoon of safety for the moment, but outside, the rain continued to fall relentlessly, and the world beyond the windows was far less forgiving. Mia shifted, adjusting Lily in her arms while Max's small fingers curled gently around her shirt. The babies seemed soothed by the warmth and quiet, but the tension in Mia's jaw betrayed the storm still raging inside her. Keanu gently asked, "Mia, do you have a plan? A place to go?" She shook her head slowly. "No. We just survive, day by day. I'm scared someone might find us." Rosa's eyes darkened with understanding. "Sometimes the world isn't kind to those who need kindness most." Keanu nodded, his mind racing with thoughts. This wasn't just about shelter and food. There were deeper dangers lurking, threats Mia had hinted at, and he knew he had to be ready. For now, though, they had this sanctuary, this moment of peace. And for the first time since the storm began, Mia allowed herself a small, hopeful smile. The clock on the diner wall ticked steadily, a gentle reminder of time moving forward, even when life felt frozen in place. Keanu leaned back, watching Mia with quiet respect as she cared for the twins. Her hands moved with practiced tenderness, changing diapers, soothing cries, whispering soft words only a mother could know. Rosa returned with a fresh pot of coffee and a warm smile. "If you need anything else, just holler," she said kindly, before disappearing back behind the counter. The diner's hum of conversation and clinking dishes created a comforting backdrop, a stark contrast to the cold, harsh world outside. Keanu reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone, debating whether to call someone for help. But Mia's wary glance stopped him. She wasn't ready. Not yet. Trust was fragile here, and every move mattered. "So," Keanu began gently, "tell me about the baby's mama. What happened to her?" Mia swallowed hard, her eyes distant with memory. "My sister, Melody. She was the strongest person I've ever known. She got sick, real bad, but she never gave up on the twins. When she was in the hospital, she made me promise to take care of them, said they were everything to her." Keanu nodded, feeling the weight of that promise settle on his shoulders too. "That's a heavy burden for someone your age." "I don't have a choice," Mia said fiercely. "I promised her, and I'll keep that promise no matter what." Her voice cracked, but her eyes burned with determination. Keanu felt a surge of admiration. This girl, barely 14, was fighting battles most adults couldn't imagine. Outside, the rain softened, but Keanu knew the danger wasn't gone. The shadows that lurked beyond the diner were real. Powerful people were searching for Mia and the babies, people who didn't care about promises or protection. He looked at Mia again, her tiny frame illuminated by the diner's warm light, holding Lily and Max close. "We'll figure something out," he said softly. "You're not alone in this." Mia managed a small nod, but the fear lingered. She trusted him, but only just. The path ahead was uncertain and treacherous. For now, though, there was warmth, food, and the small kindness of a diner waitress named Rosa, an unexpected light in a dark night. The bell above the diner's door jingled sharply, cutting through the warm hum of quiet conversations and the clatter of dishes. Keanu glanced toward the entrance, his instincts instantly alert. Two men stepped inside, their movements precise and deliberate, like predators entering unfamiliar territory. Both were dressed in expensive suits, impeccably tailored, their faces unreadable, but eyes cold and calculating. They scanned the room quickly, taking in every detail, before settling their gaze on Mia and the twins in the corner booth. Keanu's heart tightened. There was something off, too much control in their posture, too little empathy in their eyes. They didn't belong here, not in a place offering refuge to those running from the storm. One of the men approached the counter, his voice smooth but edged with authority. "We're looking for a young woman, about 14 years old, dark hair, accompanied by 2 infants. Seen here recently?" Rosa's warm expression flickered, replaced by a careful neutrality. She shook her head slowly. "No, I haven't seen anyone like that tonight." The man's gaze flicked toward the back corner, where Mia sat with Lily and Max, but he said nothing more. His companion followed suit, subtly moving closer to the booth, under the guise of passing by. Keanu's muscles tensed. This wasn't a routine inquiry. The weight behind those cold eyes told a different story, one of pursuit and possession, not protection. These men were hunters disguised as concerned authorities. He could feel the danger creeping closer, threatening to shatter the fragile sanctuary Mia and the babies had found. Mia's grip on the babies tightened, her body instinctively shielding them as her eyes darted nervously between the strangers and Keanu. She had told him little about the people searching for her and the twins, but now, faced with the reality, fear washed over her like a cold tide. Keanu shifted in his seat, positioning himself subtly between Mia and the men. His mind raced, considering options, calculating risks. He couldn't let these strangers claim Mia and the babies. Not here, not like this. The second man pulled out a badge, official, but somehow too polished, too rehearsed. We're with Child Protective Services. We've had reports of a minor in possession of infants without proper guardianship. We need to ensure the children's safety." Rosa exchanged a quick glance with Keanu, her eyes reflecting quiet worry. Mia's pale face showed a flicker of panic. Keanu cleared his throat gently. "Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. Mia's taking care of those babies because she loves them. She's not trying to hide." The men exchanged looks, unimpressed. Their presence, cold and uncompromising, filled the room with tension. The safety that had wrapped around Mia like a shield was thinning, stretched to a breaking point. Keanu's protective instincts ignited. He knew he had to act, not with force, but with courage. The night was far from over, and this battle was just beginning. The two men's expressions hardened, their polite facades slipping just a little. The one holding the badge leaned closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "We don't want to take the children away, but we have orders to investigate. If you cooperate, this will go smoothly." Keanu studied them carefully. Their eyes didn't lie. These were not social workers concerned with the well-being of the children. They were operatives with a different agenda. He sensed the danger looming just beneath their words, the threat of separation, or worse. Mia clutched the babies tighter, rocking them gently, whispering soothing words. The twins stirred but remained calm for now. She glanced nervously at Keanu, eyes pleading for help but afraid to speak. Keanu reached out subtly, resting a reassuring hand on Mia's arm. "We'll figure this out. No one's going to take them tonight." One of the men scoffed. "You don't understand the laws. The children belong in proper care, not on the streets with a minor." "That's where you're wrong," Keanu replied firmly. "They belong with her. Family isn't just biology, it's love and protection." The tension in the diner thickened, the other patrons now uneasy, sensing something serious but unsure of what. Rosa quietly moved closer to Mia, offering her presence and a comforting smile. The men's cold gaze swept the room before settling again on the booth. "We'll be back," the taller one said, voice low and threatening. "You can't hide forever." With that, they turned and strode out, their footsteps heavy against the wet pavement outside. Keanu exhaled slowly, the weight of the encounter settling on his shoulders. The threat was real and close. This wasn't just about the law. It was about power, control, and those willing to do anything to get what they wanted. Mia looked up at Keanu, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and gratitude. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They want the babies." Keanu nodded, his resolve hardening. "Then we won't let them. We protect them, no matter what." The storm outside had calmed, but the storm inside the diner, the battle for Mia and the twins, was just beginning. Keanu knew the night ahead would test them all in ways none could imagine. The warmth inside the diner felt fragile, a small refuge in a night full of danger. Keanu watched Mia hold Lily and Max tightly, her young arms steady despite the fear in her eyes. The baby's soft cries reminded him what was at stake. Innocent lives caught in a deadly situation. Keanu's mind raced. Who were those men? Why were they hunting Mia and the twins with such cold determination? Their professionalism suggested powerful people behind them. Mia's promise to protect these babies was a light, but also a target. Rosa returned quietly with hot food. "Eat up," she said softly. Her kindness brought comfort, but the unease lingered. Mia kept glancing nervously toward the door. "They'll come back," she whispered. "Next time, it won't just be questions." Keanu took her hand. "We need a plan. We can't stay here forever, but I'll help keep you safe." A fierce protectiveness rose within him. This was more than a chance meeting. It was a fight to shield Mia and her babies from dark forces. Outside, the rain drummed softly on the windows, while the city carried on unaware of the fragile family inside, fighting to survive. Keanu's voice was calm but determined. We'll find allies, people who can help protect you." Mia nodded, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." For the first time, a small smile crossed her face, fragile but real. Keanu knew the path ahead would be hard, but for Mia, Lily, and Max, he was ready to face whatever came next. Keanu sat quietly across from Mia in the dim corner of the diner, watching her as she reached slowly into her soaked backpack. Her hands trembled slightly, but she moved with purpose. From the depths of the worn bag, she pulled out an old, yellowed envelope, its edges soft from months of being carried close to her chest. She clutched it tightly, as if it contained the weight of the world. The envelope was addressed simply, with Mia's sister's handwriting, familiar and fragile. Mia's voice dropped to a whisper as she explained its significance. "This was the last thing she gave me," Mia said, her eyes fixed on the crumpled paper. "She said if anything ever happened to her, I had to keep this safe. It's important. For the babies." Keanu's curiosity deepened as Mia carefully peeled open the envelope. Inside were several documents, medical records, a letter, and a DNA test report. He recognized the format immediately, the kind used to confirm parentage in legal cases. His heart beat faster. This was more than just paperwork. It was proof of identity. Proof that could change everything. Mia's hands shook as she handed the papers over to Keanu. "The DNA test," she said softly, "shows who the father is. It's someone dangerous. Someone with enemies who would do anything to get to the babies." Keanu's eyes scanned the documents, and then his breath caught. The name on the DNA report was one that echoed through the corridors of power. Jonathan Blackwell. A man known not only for his wealth, but also for his ruthless influence. Keanu felt a chill ripple down his spine as the magnitude of the situation settled in. "This isn't just a story about survival anymore," Keanu said, his voice low. "These children are caught in something far bigger than we realized." Mia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "My sister warned me. She said they were after the babies, that she made me promise to protect them no matter what. But I don't know who they are, or what they want." The storm outside continued to batter the windows, the rain tapping like urgent fingers against the glass. Inside, the weight of the secret envelope hung heavy in the air. Keanu looked at Mia, then at the sleeping twins cradled gently in her arms. The path ahead was uncertain and dangerous, but they were no longer alone. Keanu folded the documents carefully, as if handling something fragile and precious. The reality of their situation pressed down on him like the relentless rain outside. This was no longer just about shelter or safety. It was a matter of life and death. Powerful people wanted these babies, and those people didn't care what it took to get them. Mia looked up, her eyes tired but fierce. "They want to use the babies to control him, to control my sister's family." Her voice cracked slightly. "My sister was scared, and she was right." Keanu's mind raced, connecting pieces he hadn't seen before. Jonathan Blackwell was not just a wealthy businessman. He was involved in high-stakes dealings, surrounded by enemies, political rivals, and shadowy figures. If those enemies learned about the twins, the children could become pawns in a dangerous game of power and corruption. He looked back at Mia, seeing a young girl who had been forced to grow up too fast, carrying a responsibility no one her age should bear. "We have to protect them," Keanu said, firmly, "no matter what." Mia nodded, clutching the babies tighter. "I'm scared," she admitted, "but I promised. I promised their mother I'd keep them safe, even if it means running forever." The diner's warmth suddenly felt fragile, as if the walls might not be enough to keep the storm at bay. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, a new storm was gathering. One filled with fear, determination, and the urgent need for protection. Keanu's protective instincts surged. He realized that helping Mia meant stepping into a dangerous world, one filled with threats they could barely imagine. But he couldn't turn away. Not now. Not after seeing the fierce love this girl had for the twins. Not after hearing the weight of that solemn promise. He looked at the envelope again, the symbol of a hidden truth that could change everything. We'll find a way through this, together. Mia gave a small, hopeful smile, but her eyes remained wary. The shadows lurking beyond the diner's neon glow were waiting, and soon they would make their move. Keanu's gaze flicked toward the diner's window, where the wet streets shimmered under the harsh glow of the streetlights. The rain had lessened, but the tension in the air was thicker than ever. He sensed they weren't alone, that danger was creeping closer. Mia shifted the babies, their tiny breaths slow but steady. "My sister gave me this envelope the day before she died," she whispered. "She said if anything happened, I had to keep these safe, no matter what." Keanu's fingers tightened around the envelope. The DNA test inside wasn't just a paper. It was a key to unraveling a secret powerful enough to change lives. Or end them. The father's name, Jonathan Blackwell, was well known in elite circles. Wealth, influence, and danger, all wrapped into one man. "Enemies," Mia said, her voice barely audible over the fading storm. "They're after the babies because they know who their father is. They want to use them to get to him." Keanu felt a chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary story of survival. It was a high-stakes battle for innocence and safety against ruthless forces who saw children as leverage. He looked at Mia's determined face, saw the bravery that had kept these babies alive through nights of fear and uncertainty. "We'll protect them. We'll make sure no one ever hurts Lily or Max," he promised quietly, his voice steady with resolve. But the weight of that promise was heavy. Keanu knew the path ahead would be filled with danger, uncertainty, and sacrifices none of them were prepared for. Yet, in that moment, the fragile hope in Mia's eyes gave him strength. Outside, distant headlights flashed briefly before disappearing into the night. Somewhere out there, enemies were closing in. But for now, inside the small diner, a quiet alliance was forged. One built on trust, courage, and the fierce love of a teenage girl who refused to let her family be torn apart. Keanu folded the envelope once more, tucking it safely inside his coat. The mystery deepened, and the fight for the baby's future was just beginning. The moment the two men in suits stepped outside the diner, their cold gazes scanning the empty street, the atmosphere shifted. The quiet drizzle was now punctuated by the ominous sound of their footsteps echoing off the wet pavement. Keanu's eyes narrowed. He sensed the danger growing by the second. Inside the diner, Mia clutched Lily and Max tighter, their fragile forms nestled against her chest. Rosa hovered nearby, her face pale but determined. "We can't stay here," Keanu whispered urgently. "They'll keep coming. We need to move." Mia's voice trembled, but she nodded. "Where do we go? I can't lose them, not now." Her fear was raw, but her resolve was stronger. Keanu scanned the back of the diner and saw a narrow alleyway dimly lit by a flickering street lamp. "This way," he said, motioning toward the exit. Rosa moved swiftly to block the view, giving them precious seconds. They slipped out the back door quietly, the cool night air hitting them like a shock. The alley was tight and shadowed, filled with puddles and the smell of damp concrete. Keanu led the way, careful not to let the baby's delicate forms jostle too much. Behind them, voices shouted, and the men's footsteps grew louder. The chase had begun. Mia whispered to the babies, rocking them gently despite the tension. Keanu could hear the faint whimpers of Lily and Max, their tiny cries breaking the silence of the night. Every second counted. As they turned corner after corner, the city seemed to close in, alleyways twisting like a maze. Keanu's heart pounded, matching the quick steps of their pursuers. He thought about the promise Mia made, the lives depending on him now. The chase was more than just escape. It was a fight to keep the innocents safe from the shadows closing in. The sound of footsteps was relentless, pounding closer behind them. Keanu glanced back, catching fleeting shadows between the dim streetlights. The two men in suits were closing in fast, their faces unreadable masks of cold intent. This wasn't just a chase, it was a hunt. Mia's breath came in shallow gasps, but she held tight to Lily and Max. Their tiny bodies stirred with unease, and Keanu felt the crushing weight of responsibility. These babies, so vulnerable and innocent, depended on their every move. They ducked into a narrow passageway, the walls slick with rain and graffiti, the stench of the city thick in the air. Keanu scanned for an escape route. Ahead, a chain-link fence loomed, partially covered by tattered tarps. "Help me!" he urged Rosa, who stepped forward, deftly lifting the tarp and finding a loose panel. "Go," Rosa whispered urgently. Keanu carefully handed Lily to Mia and scooped up Max. Together, they slipped through the gap just as harsh voices erupted behind them. "We're not done yet," one of the pursuers shouted. The group spilled onto a quieter side street. Neon signs flickered in the distance, but this area felt abandoned, empty but for the shadows. Keanu's mind raced. Every alley, every corner, every possible hiding spot had to be considered. Mia's voice trembled as she whispered, "Who are they? Why are they after us?" Keanu's jaw clenched. He didn't have all the answers, but he knew enough. Powerful people with dangerous enemies, babies caught in the crossfire, and a desperate teenage girl fighting for their survival. The rain slowed, but the danger didn't. As they hurried on, Keanu could almost feel eyes watching from the darkness. Suddenly, a faint noise, car doors slamming, engines revving, echoed nearby. The men in suits were regrouping, calling for backup. "We have to keep moving," Keanu said firmly. Mia nodded, burying her face against Lily's soft hair. Rosa checked her phone, searching for a safe place to lead them next. This was no longer just a chase through the city streets. It was a race against time, with lives hanging in the balance. Keanu's heart pounded as they rounded a corner, the faint glow of street lamps barely lighting the way. The sound of distant sirens mixed with the relentless footsteps behind them, heightening the tension with every passing second. Each breath was sharp and quick, but he forced himself to remain calm. For Mia, for Lily and Max. They slipped into a narrow stairwell between two buildings, its metal steps slick with rain. Keanu glanced up and down, gauging their only possible escape route. "Up or down?" he whispered. Mia's eyes were wide with fear, clutching the babies tighter. "Up," she said, voice trembling but resolute. They ascended cautiously, the creak of each step threatening to give them away. At the top, a rooftop awaited, surrounded by a low brick wall. Keanu pushed open the rusty gate and pulled them onto the wet surface, just as shouts echoed from below. "Don't let them get away," one of the men barked. From the rooftop, Keanu spotted a fire escape leading down the other side of the building. It looked steep and dangerous, but it was their only chance. Rosa checked the babies, soothing their restless cries. "We have to keep them calm," she said softly. Keanu nodded. "We'll make it." One by one, they scrambled down the fire escape, careful to avoid loose steps and rusted bars. The city stretched out below, a labyrinth of dark alleys and shadowed streets. For a moment, the chaos seemed to pause, but Keanu knew better. As they reached the ground, a sleek black van screeched around the corner, headlights piercing the darkness. The men in suits had brought reinforcements. "Run!" Keanu shouted, grabbing Mia's arm. They sprinted through a maze of back streets, the cries of the babies urging them onward. Every turn brought new dangers. Locked gates, narrow passages, looming figures. But Keanu refused to let despair take hold. His mind raced, mapping out every possible refuge, every chance to lose their pursuers. Finally, ahead, a faint light flickered. A small community center, still open late. With the last of their strength, They dashed inside, hearts pounding but hope ignited. Safe, for now. But the night was far from over. The quiet sanctuary of the community center offered a fragile sense of safety. But Keanu knew better than to let his guard down. The shadows outside still held threats, and time was slipping through their fingers. Mia sat with Lily and Max, cradled close, exhaustion pulling at her young frame. Rosa busied herself, offering blankets and warm drinks, but the unease lingered. Then the door creaked open. A figure stepped inside, tall, purposeful, moving with a calm confidence that caught Keanu's attention instantly. She wore a plain jacket, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the room quickly before settling on their little group. "I'm Sarah," the woman said softly but firmly. "I've been sent to find you." Keanu rose, his protective instincts flaring. "Sent by who?" Sarah hesitated, then added, "By someone who cares about the babies. A father who refuses to let them fall into the wrong hands." Mia looked up, eyes wary but curious. "You know about them?" Sarah nodded. "More than you realize. I was hired to track them down, to keep them safe. There are people who will stop at nothing to get to those babies. Powerful people." Keanu's jaw tightened. "We already know that." Sarah pulled out a small device, a tablet, and swiped through images and information. "I've been following their trail for weeks. You're lucky to have made it this far." Relief flickered in Mia's eyes, but so did doubt. "Why should we trust you? You could be like the others." Sarah's gaze softened. "I'm not here to harm you. I left that world behind. Now, my job is to protect." Keanu exchanged a glance with Mia. The weight of their choices settled between them. This stranger could be the help they desperately needed, or another risk in an already perilous journey. "We don't have much time," Sarah continued. "They'll be looking for you again soon. With me, you stand a better chance." Mia nodded slowly, clutching her babies tighter. "Okay, but we do this together." Keanu stepped forward, feeling a cautious hope stirring inside. The fight to protect Lily and Max was far from over, but now they weren't alone. Sarah quickly began outlining a plan as Keanu, Mia, and Rosa listened intently. The men who had been pursuing them were not ordinary criminals. They were professionals. Hired guns connected to a shadowy network with resources that far exceeded what Mia and her tiny family could imagine. "They want to use the babies as leverage," Sarah explained, her voice low but urgent. "Their father is a powerful man who's refused to cooperate with certain dangerous factions. These people are ruthless. They don't care about the children. They want control." Mia's face tightened with worry. "I promised their mother I'd keep them safe. I won't let anyone take them away." Keanu placed a reassuring hand on Mia's shoulder. "We'll protect them, together." Sarah nodded, then turned to Rosa. "You've been a beacon of hope for them here. Thank you." Rosa smiled gently. "They deserve kindness. Everyone does." The warmth in Rosa's eyes was a small comfort in the cold uncertainty hanging in the room. Sarah pulled out a map and spread it on the table. "We'll need to move soon. Staying here too long is too dangerous." Keanu studied the map carefully. "What's the best way out of the city?" Sarah pointed to a series of back roads and alleys. "We'll use routes they won't expect. The goal is to keep the babies out of sight and off the radar." Mia looked down at Lily and Max, their tiny faces peaceful despite the chaos around them. "I just want them to be safe, to have a chance at a normal life." Sarah's eyes softened. "We'll get you there." Just then, the soft hum of a car engine approached outside. Sarah's gaze sharpened. "They're close. We need to move." "Now?" Keanu quickly gathered supplies from Rosa, while Mia gently rocked the twins. The fragile sense of safety they had was slipping away, but with Sarah's help, hope was still alive. As they stepped out into the rain-soaked night, Keanu felt the weight of responsibility settle heavier than ever before. This was more than protection. It was a battle against forces that would stop at nothing. But for Mia, for Lily and Max, and for everyone standing with them, giving up was not an option. The night air was sharp and cold as they slipped out the back door, moving quickly but carefully through shadowed alleys slick with rain. Mia held the twins tightly, her small frame seeming fragile but fierce with determination. Keanu walked beside her, alert to every sound, every movement. Sarah led the way, her eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of danger. "They'll expect us to take the main roads," she whispered, "but we're going to take the long way, through the industrial district, fewer people, fewer cameras." Rosa stayed close, her presence a calming anchor amidst the tension. The distant sound of engines and footsteps echoed behind them, a constant reminder that the hunters were not far away. Mia's voice was soft but steady as she spoke to the babies. "Almost there, Lily. Almost there, Max." She hummed the same lullaby she'd sung since they were born, a melody woven with love and desperate hope. Keanu's heart ached watching her. How could someone so young carry such a burden? The weight of loss, fear, and fierce protection pressed on her shoulders like a mountain. They reached a narrow alley, dark except for the flickering light of a broken street lamp. Sarah stopped and held up a hand. "We wait here. I'll check the perimeter." Keanu nodded, holding Mia's hand gently. "You're not alone." Minutes stretched like hours. The sound of distant sirens mingled with the rain. Then, a faint noise. A car door closing made Sarah's eyes snap toward the street. "Get down," she ordered quietly. They crouched behind crates, the babies safely tucked into Mia's coat. Through the gloom, two dark figures moved cautiously, their steps deliberate, searching. Keanu's breath caught. The men were close, but the shadows favored them tonight. The figures passed without noticing. Sarah signaled it was safe. "Let's move." With renewed urgency, they pressed forward, each step taking them farther from danger, closer to a chance at safety. Though the road ahead was uncertain and perilous, the bond between them, forged in fear, hope, and courage, was unbreakable. Together, they would face whatever came next. Jonathan Blackwell sat alone in his sleek, glass-walled office, the city lights of Los Angeles twinkling beneath him like distant stars. His hands trembled slightly as he stared at the photo on his desk, a picture of two tiny infants, held tightly by a young girl he had only just met through urgent messages and whispered secrets. The truth had been a shock. These were his children, Lily and Max, twins he never knew existed. For weeks, Jonathan had been consumed by regret and disbelief. How could he have been so blind, so distant? His life had been filled with success, building a tech empire, attending board meetings and navigating cutthroat deals. But none of it mattered now. Nothing compared to the fragile lives of these babies and the brave girl protecting them. He stood and paced the room, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him like a physical force. Jonathan was a man who had controlled everything in his life, but this was beyond his grasp. He had failed them before they even had a chance. The sound of his phone vibrating broke his thoughts. It was Sarah Chin, his trusted security expert. Her voice was steady but urgent as she briefed him on the situation. The twins were safe, for now, thanks to Mia and Keanu Reeves, who had risked everything to protect them, but danger still lurked. Jonathan's heart ached. He felt gratitude toward Mia, the girl who had become a mother figure to his children, and to Keanu, whose kindness and courage had given them hope. He knew he needed to step up, not just as a wealthy businessman, but as a father. Later, in a quiet, secure location, Jonathan finally met Mia and the babies. His eyes filled with tears as he held Lily and Max for the first time. He whispered promises of protection and love. Mia watched silently, the years of hardship reflected in her eyes, but also a flicker of hope. The reunion was heavy with emotion, forgiveness for missed moments, a solemn vow to face the dangers ahead together, and the fragile beginning of a family forged not just by blood, but by sacrifice. Jonathan sat beside Mia and Keanu, the weight of the moment settling heavily on his shoulders. The sterile room was quiet except for the soft coos of Lily and Max, cradled safely in Mia's arms. He struggled to find words that could express the depth of his remorse. "I never knew," Jonathan began, voice thick with emotion. "I should have been here. I should have protected them from the start." Mia looked up at him, her eyes steady but wary. "It's not your fault," she said quietly. "Melody trusted me with this promise. She believed in me to keep them safe when she couldn't." Jonathan nodded slowly. "Melody was a remarkable woman. I've heard so much about her from Sarah and Keanu. I'm sorry I wasn't there when she needed support the most." Keanu placed a reassuring hand on Jonathan's shoulder. "What matters now is what you do moving forward. These children need more than just protection. They need family." Jonathan's resolve hardened. "I'm ready. I will do whatever it takes to keep Lily and Max safe. No threats, no enemies will come near them while I'm here." Mia's face softened, a fragile smile breaking through her guarded expression. "You don't have to do this alone. Keanu and Rosa have been our strength so far. We'll stand together." As the babies stirred in Mia's arms, Jonathan felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility mixed with hope. This was more than just a reunion. It was a second chance, a chance to build a family from the pieces left behind. Suddenly, Sarah's voice came through on the speakerphone. "Jonathan, we have updates. The men chasing the babies are becoming more desperate. We need to act quickly." Jonathan's eyes darkened with determination. "Then let's make sure we're one step ahead. For Lily and Max, I won't back down." The room fell into a determined silence. The fragile family united against the shadows that threatened their future. Together, they would face whatever came next. The room's tension was palpable as Jonathan stood, cradling Max in one arm and gently holding Lily's tiny hand with the other. He looked around at Mia, Keanu, and Sarah, his new family in this whirlwind of uncertainty. "I want you all to know," Jonathan began, voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside, "that this isn't just about protecting the children from outside threats. It's about building a future where they can grow up surrounded by love, stability, and hope." Mia nodded, her gaze softening. "That's all I ever wanted for them. To give them a life better than the one they've had so far." Keanu smiled, the kind that carried quiet strength. "And you're not alone. We'll fight for them. Together." Jonathan took a deep breath, the responsibility heavy but his resolve stronger than ever. "Melody's sacrifice won't be in vain. We will honor her memory by giving Lily and Max everything they deserve." Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed again. "More movement outside," she said, checking the screen. "They're regrouping. This isn't over." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "Then we need a plan. We can't just hide. We have to be proactive, expose these threats and dismantle them before they get closer." Keanu added, "Your voice is powerful, Jonathan. We can bring this story to light. Make sure the world knows what's happening. Protection through visibility." Mia squeezed Lily's hand, tears welling in her eyes. "For the babies, for Melody, for all of us." Jonathan looked down at the twins, their innocent faces the reason for his renewed courage. "We're going to make it through this, together." The group gathered close, united by purpose and love. Outside, the storm had passed, but the real battle was just beginning. The fight for Lily and Max's safety, and for their right to a family, was about to change everything. The dim light of the abandoned airport terminal flickered as the group hurried inside, the heavy metal doors clanging shut behind them. Outside, the harsh voices of the armed men echoed, their footsteps pounding the concrete like thunder. The once bustling terminal was now a hollow shell, scattered with broken chairs, cracked tiles, and dusty windows stained with years of neglect. Mia clutched Lily tightly, the baby's soft whimpers barely audible over the noise. Max, nestled in Jonathan's arms, squirmed, sensing the tension in the air. Keanu scanned the surroundings, his protective instincts sharp. This was no longer just a desperate escape. It was a fight for survival. Sarah moved to a rusted control panel, quickly surveying their limited options. "We're trapped," she said quietly, eyes flicking toward the shuttered windows. "They've got every exit covered. The men outside aren't just guards. They're highly trained, and they're coming for us." Jonathan's face hardened. "Then we need to make a stand. We can't run anymore." Keanu nodded, stepping closer. "We have to protect Mia and those babies at all costs, no matter what happens." Mia wiped a tear from her cheek, her young face fierce with determination. "I promised my sister I'd keep them safe. I won't let anyone take them." The group gathered near a cluster of overturned tables, creating a makeshift barrier. The air was thick with fear, but beneath it simmered a resolve that refused to break. Keanu's gaze lingered on Mia and the twins, a deep well of empathy stirring inside him. Their safety was no longer just a promise, it was a mission. Outside, muffled voices grew louder, punctuated by the occasional crack of a radio. The false officials were closing in, and time was slipping away. The group huddled closer, their breaths shallow in the cold, stale air of the terminal. Sarah checked her gear once more, her fingers steady despite the mounting pressure. "They're trying to intimidate us," she said. "They want us to make a mistake." Keanu looked at Jonathan, whose usual confidence was now shadowed by deep concern. "We need a plan," Keanu said. "Something to buy us time." Jonathan pulled out his phone, quickly scanning messages. No signal, they must be jamming communications. His jaw clenched. "We're completely isolated." Mia rocked Lily gently, whispering a soft lullaby to calm the baby. Despite her youth, she held herself with quiet strength. "I've been through worse," she said softly. "We're not giving up." Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're doing more than most adults could. We're here with you." The joke turns to Sarah paced the length of the room, her mind racing through possibilities. "There's an old maintenance tunnel beneath the terminal," she said suddenly. "If we can get there, it might lead us to a back exit, somewhere they won't expect." Jonathan's eyes lit up with cautious hope. "Can you get us there safely?" "I know the layout, but it's risky, narrow passages, uneven floors. With the babies, it's going to be hard." The group exchanged looks. The danger outside was real and immediate. The tunnel might be their only chance. Mia's voice was steady despite the fear in her eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep Lily and Max safe." Keanu nodded in agreement. "We move quickly and quietly. No one gets left behind." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps intensified just outside the door. Voices barked orders, demanding they surrender. The group stiffened. Sarah raised a hand, signaling silence. "Prepare yourselves. This is going to get worse before it gets better." Keanu's heart pounded. The fight for survival had truly begun. The footsteps grew louder, echoing through the abandoned terminal as shadowy figures moved closer. Keanu crouched beside Mia, who held Lily and Max tightly against her chest. Rosa stayed close, her eyes scanning every corner, ready to alert them of any approaching danger. Jonathan checked the pistol in his jacket, a rare show of vulnerability for the usually composed mogul. "They won't hesitate," he said grimly. "We have to be smarter." Sarah pulled the group toward a rusted service door near the rear of the building. "This leads to the maintenance tunnels. If we hurry, we can get ahead of them." The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, dimly lit passage. Dust floated in the stale air, and the faint hum of distant rain seeped through cracks in the walls. The babies stirred, sensing the tension but soothed by Mia's calm voice. One by one they slipped inside, moving cautiously but quickly. The uneven concrete made footing uncertain, and every sound seemed amplified in the confined space. Keanu's mind raced, balancing the weight of urgency and the need to keep the babies safe. Behind them, the harsh voices grew frustrated. "They're escaping! Don't let them get away!" A shout pierced the tunnel's darkness. Keanu's breath caught, but he forced himself to keep moving. "We're not out of this yet," he whispered. "Stay close." As they advanced deeper, the passage twisted and narrowed. The light from Sarah's flashlight revealed old pipes and forgotten signs, relics of a time when this place bustled with life. Suddenly, Mia stumbled on a loose stone, and Max let out a soft cry. Keanu steadied her immediately. "It's okay, you're safe," he murmured. The group pressed on, adrenaline sharpening their senses. They reached a rusted grate leading to an emergency exit near a parking lot. "Almost there," Sarah said, pushing the grate open just wide enough to slip through. Outside, the rain had eased to a light drizzle. They paused briefly, breathing in the cold night air. But the danger was far from over. Cars with darkened windows circled nearby, their occupants scanning for any sign of movement. Jonathan took a deep breath. "We'll have to make a run for it." Keanu nodded, heart pounding, eyes fixed on the shadows ahead. This was just the beginning of their fight for survival. Keanu's hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his phone. The dim light of the abandoned parking lot barely illuminated their faces, but it was enough. He tapped the screen and switched on the camera, feeling the weight of what he was about to do. The faces around him were weary, tense, but hopeful. Mia holding Lily close, Max swaddled safely, Jonathan standing protectively nearby, and Sarah ready for whatever came next. "This is Keanu Reeves," he began, his voice steady but urgent. "We're here in Los Angeles, surrounded by people who want to harm 2 innocent babies and the young girl protecting them. These children are not just babies. They're targets because of who they are. Their story has been hidden for too long." He panned the camera slowly to show the worn envelopes Mia carried, the tired yet determined faces, and the dark vehicles parked in the shadows nearby. "We are in danger, but more importantly, we want the world to see the truth." Mia peeked at the screen, her eyes wide but trusting. "Please," she whispered, "help us." Keanu's heart clenched at her words. He focused back on the camera. "We are sharing this live because the truth is our only protection. If anything happens to us, the world will know exactly who is responsible." He shared their location, quietly but clearly, understanding that the message had to reach as many people as possible. Minutes passed as the live video streamed, viewers joining in by the thousands, then tens of thousands. Comments flooded in, support, disbelief, shock. The power of social media was palpable, a shield forming around them as the story unfolded in real time. Behind the scenes, the kidnappers received reports that their plans were unraveling. Their chilling control was slipping away in the face of growing public awareness. Keanu kept the camera steady, his voice calm but resolute. "We will not be silenced. These babies deserve safety and love. We are asking everyone watching to stand with us, to demand justice and protection for the most vulnerable among us." The night air was thick with tension, but also with hope. The simple act of going public had changed the rules of the game. As the live stream continued, the numbers climbed rapidly. Tens of thousands became hundreds of thousands, then surged into the millions. Notifications from news outlets began to pour in, some reporters already picking up the story, amplifying it across platforms. The hashtag Save Lily and Max was trending globally, a rallying cry for justice and protection. Keanu glanced at Mia, whose face was illuminated by the soft glow of the phone screen. Despite her exhaustion, she remained steadfast, gently rocking Lily while Max slept peacefully. Jonathan's eyes flicked between the stream and the growing crowd outside. His usual composed demeanor cracked by the raw emotions of fatherhood suddenly thrust upon him. Sarah's watchful gaze never left the entrances to the terminal. Her military training heightened every sound, every shadow. The kidnappers were restless now, their movements more aggressive, yet cautious, under the spotlight of millions watching worldwide. Suddenly, the phone buzzed with a message that froze Keanu's blood. An anonymous text. "You think this helps? We're coming, and there's nowhere you can hide." Keanu swallowed hard, but his voice did not waver. He looked back into the camera and addressed the growing audience. "The threats are real, the danger is close, but so is the hope. The truth shines brightest in darkness, and we will not back down." Behind the scenes, security teams working for Jonathan scrambled to coordinate with local authorities, leveraging the viral attention to buy precious time. Lawyers prepared statements, and advocacy groups organized rapid responses, ensuring the story couldn't be buried or ignored. Mia, still cradling the babies, whispered to Keanu, "Thank you for making them see us, for making them listen." Keanu nodded, the gravity of the moment sinking in. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for dignity, for the right of these children to live free from fear. The live stream had become more than just a broadcast. It was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the storm of threats and uncertainty. Keanu knew that the next hours would test their courage like never before. But the world was watching now, and sometimes that made all the difference. The tension in the terminal thickened as the live stream continued to draw attention far beyond what anyone expected. The once silent halls were now filled with the distant sounds of sirens and approaching vehicles. Keanu's hands trembled slightly as he held the phone steady, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. Outside, the kidnappers hesitated, caught between their aggressive intent and the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Their plans to operate in the shadows were unraveling by the second. Keanu could see the flicker of frustration in their eyes as reporters swarmed the area, blocking entry points and broadcasting live updates. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice firm and unwavering despite the chaos. "We will protect these children. No threats, no money, no power will separate this family." Mia looked up at him, hope shining through her exhaustion. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to imagine a future where Lily and Max were safe, where she wasn't alone in their fight. Sarah's gaze shifted between the entrances and the group, calculating every possible move. "They won't give up easily. We need to prepare for whatever comes next." Keanu nodded. "But we're not hiding anymore. The world is watching, and that's our greatest weapon." The stream exploded with supportive comments. Thousands pledging help, offers from advocacy groups, and messages of solidarity from people worldwide. The narrative had shifted from fear to defiance. Suddenly, a voice broke through the tension, a local news anchor reporting live from just outside the terminal, describing the unfolding drama, emphasizing the bravery of the young girl and the determination of those protecting her. Keanu's heart swelled with a mixture of relief and renewed determination. The power of truth, amplified by millions of witnesses, had forced the kidnappers onto the defensive. But deep down, he knew the fight was far from over. This was just the beginning. Jonathan Blackwell's hand shook slightly as he gripped his phone. The harsh glow of the screen illuminated his tense face, showing lines carved from sleepless nights and crushing responsibility. Across the room, Keanu, Mia, and Sarah huddled together, the air thick with unease. The weight of the situation pressed down on them all, but Jonathan knew he had to stay strong. For the babies, for Mia, and for the future they all hoped to build. The line clicked, and a cold, measured voice filled the silence. "Mr. Blackwell, we have your children. We want your cooperation. The terms are simple." Jonathan's eyes narrowed. "I'm listening. We require you to sign contracts with our associates, security agreements, weapons supply deals, and political favors. You know what happens if you refuse." A silence fell over the room. The demand was as clear as it was chilling. Jonathan swallowed hard, his mind racing through every possible consequence. "Threaten my children and you will regret it," Jonathan said, voice low but resolute. "We don't want to hurt them, but you have 5 hours to comply. If not, we start taking action." He ended the call before Jonathan could respond again. The room was silent, heavy with dread. Sarah broke the stillness. "They're not bluffing. This isn't just about money. It's about power. And they'll use those babies to get what they want." Mia tightened her grip on Lily and Max, her eyes blazing with fierce determination. "I promise their mother. I won't let anyone hurt them." Keanu looked at them all, feeling the immense courage in that small space. "We need a plan. We can't just wait for them to act." Jonathan nodded, though fear gnawed at him. "I'll negotiate. I'll buy time. But we need to be ready for whatever happens next." Outside, the distant hum of engines and flashing lights reminded them that time was slipping away. Every second counted. Jonathan paced the dimly lit room, phone still in hand, replaying the conversation in his mind. The kidnappers' demands were not just an attack on his business or reputation. They were an assault on the family he never knew he had. Every contract they wanted signed was a compromise of his principles, a betrayal of everything he stood for. Yet, the safety of Lily and Max came first. Keanu sat nearby, rubbing his temples. "These people are dangerous. If they get what they want, it won't end with contracts. They'll control everything you do." Sarah scanned the windows, ever watchful. "Their men are still outside, positioning for an assault. We don't know when or how, but it's coming." Mia whispered softly to the babies, her voice trembling with exhaustion and fear. "I'm sorry I can't protect you more." Jonathan knelt beside her. "You've done more than anyone could, and we're all here now. We're not letting anything happen to them." The phone buzzed again, cutting through the tension. Jonathan answered. The voice on the other end was colder this time, less patient. "Time is running out. You must make a choice. Sign, or we take matters into our own hands." Jonathan's jaw clenched. "I will not negotiate under threat. I will find a way to protect my children without compromising who I am." The line went dead. The room grew colder, heavier. Keanu stood. "We need to prepare for the worst. Secure exits, communication, a safe place if we have to run." Sarah nodded, checking weapons and supplies. "We'll stay one step ahead. These people underestimate how far we'll go to keep the babies safe." Mia looked up, eyes fierce despite the tears. "We fight. Not just for them, but for every child who deserves protection." Jonathan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the coming storm. "Whatever happens, we do it together." Outside, the night pressed in, full of unseen threats and uncertain futures. But inside, the fragile bond between them grew stronger. A family forged in the face of danger. The group worked quietly but efficiently, each person moving with purpose. Jonathan reviewed the security plans Sarah had laid out, mapping possible escape routes and safe rooms within the terminal. Every detail mattered now. The baby's safety depended on it. Keanu checked the small backpack Mia carried, making sure nothing essential was left behind. Diapers, bottles, a worn blanket. Mia clutched the twins close, whispering soothing words as their little hands curled around her fingers. Suddenly, the tension snapped with the distant sound of footsteps, heavy, purposeful. The kidnappers were advancing, closing in with a calculated determination that left no room for mercy. Jonathan's phone buzzed again. He answered, steeling himself for another demand or threat. Instead, it was silence, then a slow click. The call had been disconnected. A message followed. 5 minutes. Keanu's voice was low but firm. "They've given us a deadline. We need to be ready to move at a moment's notice." Sarah tightened her grip on her weapon, eyes flicking to the windows. "We don't know if they'll try to storm the place or try something more subtle. Either way, we have to be prepared." Mia's gaze was steady, a quiet resolve settling over her young face. I promised I'd protect Lily and Max no matter what. I'm not giving up now." Jonathan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And you won't be alone. We'll face this together." Outside, shadows lengthened and the night air grew colder, but inside the group found strength in each other. They were outnumbered and surrounded, but united. The kidnappers' demands echoed in their minds. Contracts in exchange for innocence. Power wielded like a weapon over helpless lives. It was a test of courage, morality, and love. No matter the cost, they would fight for these children, because some promises were sacred, and some battles were worth every risk. The night air was thick with tension as headlights pierced the darkness outside the terminal. The sound of engines approached rapidly, a steady rhythm that promised arrival and hope. The group huddled close, every sense alert, every heartbeat quickened. Suddenly, the front doors burst open and a wave of federal agents poured in, clad in tactical gear, faces serious but resolute. The chaotic energy shifted instantly, from fear to cautious relief. Voices barked orders, and the kidnappers, caught off guard, hesitated before scrambling to retreat. Jonathan stepped forward, his voice firm but calm. "This is a rescue. Stay together, keep the babies safe." He scanned the faces around him. The brave teenager Mia, who had protected the twins with unmatched courage, Keanu, whose presence lent strength, and Sarah, ever vigilant. The babies stirred, sensing the change in energy. Mia rocked Lily gently, whispering soft comforts. Max's eyes fluttered open, wide and curious. For a moment, the chaos seemed distant, replaced by the fragile calm that only children could command. As agents secured the perimeter, Jonathan's phone buzzed with messages, a flood of news updates, social media alerts, and messages from allies. The world was watching now, and that awareness offered protection as much as rescue. Yet beneath the relief lay caution. The threats had not disappeared. The danger was far from over. Jonathan's eyes darkened with resolve as he spoke quietly to Sarah. "We've won this battle, but the war continues." Keanu nodded, understanding the weight of those words. They had faced overwhelming odds, but their commitment to protect the children, to expose the truth, had brought this moment. Still, the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with risk. Together they moved toward the waiting vehicles, the first steps of a new beginning. The night had been long, brutal, and unforgiving, but within it burned a flame of hope that no darkness could extinguish. The agents ushered everyone into a secure vehicle, the hum of the engine a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, but charged with cautious optimism. Jonathan held the twins gently, cradling Lily and Max as if protecting the fragile future they represented. Mia sat beside him, exhaustion visible in her eyes, yet a quiet strength remained. Keanu watched the city lights blur past, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. From a stormy night under a broken bus shelter to this moment of tentative safety. Sarah spoke softly. "We've got some breathing room, but those men won't give up easily. They have resources, connections. We have to stay vigilant." Jonathan nodded. "They want control. They see the children as leverage. But we won't let fear dictate our actions." His voice held the weight of responsibility, not just as a father now awakening to a role he never expected, but as a man determined to change his life and protect what mattered most. The group discussed their next steps, securing a safe house, contacting trustworthy allies, and preparing for the long fight ahead. There was no illusion that this was the end. It was only the beginning of a battle to keep Mia and the babies safe from those who sought to exploit them. Keanu felt a deep respect for Mia's courage. So young, yet fiercely protective. Her promise to her sister was sacred, and now it was a promise shared by all of them. Outside, the city carried on, unaware of the drama that had unfolded in its shadows. But for these few, everything had changed forever. Jonathan whispered to Mia, "You've done something incredible. These children are lucky to have you." Mia gave a small, tired smile, eyes shining with tears. "I just did what I had to." And in that moment, surrounded by newfound allies and the fragile safety of a quiet car ride, hope grew. Not naive or blind, but fierce and determined. The vehicle slowed as they approached a secure location known only to Sarah and a few trusted allies. It was a modest compound, far from the city's chaos, surrounded by thick trees and high fences, designed to keep danger out and safety in. As they stepped inside, Jonathan's resolve hardened. This place would be a sanctuary, but also a battleground. He vowed silently that no harm would come to Lily and Max, or to Mia, who had sacrificed so much for them. Keanu stood nearby, observing the quiet determination in everyone's faces. The stakes had never been higher, yet in this moment, there was a flicker of peace, a rare breath in the storm. Jonathan turned to the group. "I know I wasn't there when you needed me most, but I'm here now. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Mia's eyes met his, searching for the truth in his words. "It won't be easy," she said softly, "but I believe you." Sarah added, "We have the law on our side. And the truth. The kidnappers underestimated how far we'd go to protect these children." Outside, the night deepened, but inside the walls, plans were laid. Security tightened, routines established, and a network of support began to form around Mia and the twins. Jonathan's phone buzzed, a reminder that threats still lurked in the shadows, but with each passing moment, their safety grew stronger. Keanu thought of the journey that had begun with a simple decision to stop and help. It had turned into a mission of love, courage, and unyielding commitment. The rescue was not just an end to their immediate peril, but a new beginning, a chance to build a future where hope could thrive despite the darkness. As the night wore on, the small group settled into a tentative calm. Outside, the world continued, but inside, a family was forged, not by blood alone, but by sacrifice, trust, and the unbreakable bonds of love. Jonathan whispered quietly, "This is just the start." And in the hearts of everyone there, the promise of protection and a better tomorrow burned bright, a beacon against the night. Months had passed since that stormy night when fate had brought them together. The fear and chaos were behind them now, replaced by a fragile but growing peace. The small home, nestled on the edge of the city, was filled with soft sunlight and the gentle sounds of laughter and cooing. Mia sat at the kitchen table, carefully balancing a college brochure and a cup of tea. Her fingers trembled slightly, but there was a quiet determination in her eyes. She was no longer the frightened girl under a bus shelter. She was a young woman with a future. A future she was determined to build, not just for herself, but for Lily and Max. The twins, now nearly a year old, were crawling around the living room, their bright eyes full of curiosity and wonder. They gurgled and babbled, pulling themselves up on furniture with wobbly confidence. Their cheeks were rosy and plump, a testament to the love and care that surrounded them. Jonathan watched from the doorway, a soft smile breaking through the weariness that had marked his face for so long. He had changed, too. No longer just a distant figure consumed by work and regret, but a father ready to claim his place in this new family. His hands, once trembling with uncertainty, were now steady and sure. Melody, too, was there, her presence almost miraculous. The illness that had nearly claimed her life was now a distant memory, replaced by strength and a deep gratitude for the second chance she had been given. Her eyes sparkled as she played with the babies, laughter ringing through the house like a healing song. The room felt full of love, hope, and the promise of new beginnings. They had all faced darkness, but together they had found light. As Mia looked up from her brochure, she caught Jonathan's gaze. "I'm ready," she said softly. "College, a future, a life beyond the fear." Jonathan nodded. "And we'll be here every step of the way." Melody joined them at the table, her hand resting gently on Mia's shoulder. "We've all been given a second chance. Let's make the most of it. Together." Together. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting warm golden hues across the sky. It was a perfect evening to dream of the future, a future where family was chosen, love was the strongest bond, and hope was never lost. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments of reflection and hopeful planning. Mia spent her mornings studying, poring over textbooks and notes, her determination unwavering. The twins, Lily and Max, had become her world, but now she dared to imagine a life beyond survival, a life where dreams could be nurtured alongside diapers and lullabies. Jonathan worked tirelessly behind the scenes, balancing his company's demands with his newfound role as a father. He had sold off stakes in risky ventures and pledged to steer his empire toward a future that honored family and integrity. The nights were long, but the motivation was clear. These children were his legacy, and he would protect them at all costs. Melody, now stronger with each passing day, was preparing to return to nursing school. Her journey had been nothing short of a miracle, and she was driven to help others who faced the same battles she had fought. She often watched Mia with a tender pride, knowing the sacrifices they had all made to reach this fragile peace. The house buzzed with a newfound warmth, filled with the scent of home-cooked meals and the soft hum of lullabies sung in the quiet hours. Even the walls seemed to hold stories of resilience and love, whispering promises of brighter days. One afternoon, as Mia packed her bag for a campus tour, she felt the weight of what lay ahead, a world of opportunities and challenges she had never dared face before. But she wasn't alone. Jonathan and Melody stood by her side, a steadfast support system that promised strength and comfort. "Remember," Jonathan said gently, "every step forward is a victory. You carry all of us with you." Mia smiled, tears welling in her eyes. "I won't forget. This family, our story, it's what keeps me going." Outside, the twins played under the watchful eyes of Rosa, the kind waitress who had become part of their circle, a reminder that family wasn't only about blood, but about the people who showed up when it mattered most. As evening settled, the family gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories, dreams, and laughter. It was a scene of hope, healing, and unity, a testament to the power of love to overcome even the darkest storms. The future stretched out before them like an open road, full of promise and possibility. Mia, Jonathan, and Melody knew there would be challenges ahead, but they faced them together, bound by love and the unbreakable bonds they had forged through hardship. Mia's college acceptance letter sat proudly on the kitchen counter, a symbol of a new chapter, one where she could pursue her passions without fear. She dreamed of becoming a pediatrician, inspired by the care and courage she had witnessed throughout her journey. Jonathan often reflected on how much his life had changed. The powerful man who once chased success at any cost had found a deeper purpose in the laughter of his children and the strength of his family. He vowed to use his influence to protect others like Mia and the twins, to create a world where no child would have to fight alone. Melody, still recovering but growing stronger every day, began sharing her story publicly. She spoke about resilience, hope, and the importance of community support. Her voice became a beacon for those facing similar battles, reminding everyone that even in the darkest times, healing was possible. The twins thrived in this loving environment. Lily's bright eyes sparkled with curiosity, and Max's quiet smiles brought joy to everyone around him. Their laughter echoed through the halls, a sound that filled the family's hearts with peace and gratitude. One sunny afternoon, as the family gathered in the backyard, Jonathan surprised everyone by kneeling before Mia. With a small, simple ring, he asked her to be part of their family forever, not just as a guardian or protector, but as a daughter in every meaningful way. Mia's eyes filled with tears as she said yes, embracing the man who had become a father to her and her siblings. Melody joined the celebration, her smile radiant and full of hope. Together, they planned a modest wedding, a celebration not just of love, but of survival, family, and new beginnings. Friends like Rosa and Sarah were invited, each having played a vital role in the story that brought them all here. As the sun set, casting golden light over the house that was now truly a home, Mia looked around at the faces of those she loved. She whispered a quiet thank you to the universe for bringing them together in that stormy night, for the chance to rewrite their story. Because sometimes the most incredible journeys begin when you least expect them. In the rain, at a broken bus shelter, with nothing but hope and the promise of family.